Hi, everyone, and welcome to Minutes with MACHE. My name is Molly, and I'm here with Ruth Brinker and Sean Dickers, part of the MACHE Minutes team. And we have a special guest today, Jamie Erickson. And we are excited because she's going to be giving us some valuable information on what to do when you withdraw your child from public school. But before I introduce Jamie, I'm going to give just a brief overview about the legal requirements to withdraw. And it's actually really quite straightforward. So to withdraw, you want to contact your superintendent of your home district and let them know you're going to withdraw your kids to homeschool. Although it's not required, you may want to talk to their principal and also let their teacher know just as a courtesy. And then next you would want to submit the initial reporting form. And where you can find that is also on the MACHE website, and it's going to make it much easier for you to use that form. So we hope you will download that. Go to mache.org in the Minnesota Law tab, and there it is for you. So fill out the form in its entirety, and you will need to know and have a record of the immunizations of your student, or you can possibly refer to one that the district already has on file. And also there's a spot that you need to let them know what standardized test you're going to use for that school year. If you have any trouble trying to decide on a test, you can also go to our website, look under the resource tab, and there's the testing resources there for you. Then take your initial form that you have filled out in its entirety. You can either hand carry it to the district or you can email it and just ask for confirmation that it was received. There are two special circumstances that you would want to know about. If your student is 17 or under the age of 7, there would be some things you need to do a little bit differently. But you can refer to the article on the MACHE website for details on that too. We won't belabor it now, but if you do have any questions, feel free to email info@mache.org and we will walk you through that process. And so with that brief introduction, we will go to our guest, Jamie. And I would just like to introduce Jamie. She is a blogger at the Unlikely Homeschool, as well as an author and speaker. And we are so glad to have you with us today, Jamie. And I'm going to hand it off to Ruth so she can get to the heart of the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Molly. So Jamie, after a parent withdraws their child, what are some of the first steps to get started homeschooling?
Well, I think there's two camps of philosophy in this, and I don't think either one is right or wrong. I think they're both great, and it depends on your personality. I think a lot of parents jump headfirst into ordering curriculum because that's sort of what we're conditioned to believe. You know, school has to have textbooks and quizzes and worksheets, and that's not a wrong course of action. But I would really challenge parents to first begin to deschool. You might hear that term tossed around. It sounds a lot like unschooling. That's a totally different thought in homeschooling. So let me unpack what deschooling is. I actually think that you as a parent need to deschool as well as your kids, because they're going to be coming into this with some preconditioned ideas of what school looks like. And when you combine home with school, it's going to look a lot different than what they have been used to in a traditional classroom. Now, this year has thrown us a little bit of a curveball because a lot of kids are at home schooling. So you at least have that hurdle already jumped, but it's still going to look a lot different. So you're going to have to expect a certain amount of, well, that's not the way my teacher did it. Because remember, they're kind of nursing some of their own frustrations about having to switch things up and change gear midstream. And you're going to have to give them a long leash of grace in that and know that it's probably not the way their teacher did it. And that's okay. When you're deschooling your child, you know, it's often been said for every 1 year that they've been in a traditional classroom, they need about a month to slough off all of those traditional ways. Not to say that all of those things were bad. They're right and good over there in a traditional classroom, but they kind of fit like a square peg in a round hole at home. And so you're going to have to learn in that month or 2 months, maybe even 3 months, to slowly start sloughing some of those things off. Now, in the realm of deschooling yourself, you know, you and I are all conditioned to believe that school has to look a certain way too. You know, we go back, I hearken back to the 1980s when I sat in a classroom, and my homeschool has to look a whole lot different than that. The great thing is, some of the things that you can put on, you know, you take off all of these school thoughts, you put on new ones. Some of the things you can put on are, the school day doesn't have to be as long as you might think. You know, we think 9 to 3, but in homeschooling, learning can be truncated, and it goes so much faster because you're not having to accommodate for a lot of different kinds of learners and a lot of interruptions that happen in the traditional classroom. So that's a plus for you, in that you'll be doing it for a lot fewer hours, most likely. Also, you need to get rid of the idea that learning can only happen, you know, at a desk with a classroom or with a chalkboard, and that learning can only happen with a textbook and a quiz and a test. So those are some thoughts for deschooling yourself and your kids. I think from there, during that deschooling time, that's a good time to start really becoming a student of your child and really watching them and learning about their gifts and passions, in order that you can take that information and then order curriculum based on their gifts and passions. From there, you can begin setting up a learning atmosphere in your home. I think that's key to having a really robust homeschool, is not setting your home up to look like a classroom, but really sprinkling a lot of engaging learning activities and ideas and tools around your house, so that learning can happen at any time, anywhere in your home. Those are just a couple of initial first steps that I would suggest. And then the last thing I'll mention is to begin setting up some good learning habits. You know, I was a classroom teacher for many years, and in the classroom, we usually took about 2 weeks at the start of the year to begin setting up some habits, so that the rest of the school year runs smoothly. And not a whole lot of learning took place in those first 2 weeks, because we wanted to set up good, strong routines, like where do the kids put their papers when they need to be graded? How do we stand in line to sharpen our pencils? You know, how do we stand in line at the bathroom? And we just keep reiterating these same habits and practicing them until they become automated almost, and they're set on autopilot. You can do the same thing at home. It doesn't have to necessarily look exactly the same way, but so much of your life will be put on autopilot if you can just set up some good habits and routines for your homeschool.
So on that note, you talked about a truncated, like it might take a little less time. And we had that with our kids too. We were shocked because I was a public school teacher, and we were surprised at just how much we could get done in such a little amount of time. And then the question was, well, what else do we do with our day? Because we wanted to teach them that habit of, we're going to work. When it's the work day, we do things. And we those things can be different and fun or different than school. So what are some of the different kinds of schedules that you've seen with families? Because each family is going to have a little bit different schedule of what happens during that time. But what are some things you've seen? Right. And how does a family decide how to make that schedule? So what are some things a parent should be asking as they build those habits? And what should they be looking for with their kids?
Sure. I think there's typically 4 traditional or most often used schedules in homeschooling, and lots of variations of those. I'll just quickly give you the cliff notes on all of them. There's the traditional classroom, which is set up in sort of hourly increments, just like a classroom in the brick and mortar school. The day is divided into time slots, and specific activities are slotted into those time slots. And then there's sort of a bit of a hybrid of that, and that I call it the rhythm schedule. People call it many different things. Basically, it's keeping that same order to the day, only you remove the time frame. So it's not, we're doing math from 9 to 10 in the morning. We're just starting with math. And when math is done, the kids know we're going to have a snack, because that's the order or the rhythm to our days. And so, the day doesn't necessarily have a very rigid, 9 to 3, but you follow the same pattern every day. Then there's the loop schedule. And a loop schedule is really like a glorified list. You make a list of all the things that you want to accomplish in the day. And you decide, I really only have time to homeschool, let's say from 9 to noon, and you have really small kids, so that works for you. And from 9 to noon, that's the time that you're going to be doing school. Well, you have this list of different subjects and activities and topics you want to cover. And at 9 o'clock Monday morning, you start at the top of the list and you just go down the list until noon. And at noon, you sort of tab that spot on your list, like we ended with language. So then Tuesday, you start right there at that tab and keep going down the list. And when you get to the bottom, you start again. So there's a rotation of activities. Everything is given a spot on the schedule, but you're being able to keep in that tighter time frame of work. A lot of people plug loop schedules into traditional schedules to say from 9 to 8, this is going to be our grammar spot, and here's the activities we want to accomplish in grammar. We might not do spelling every day, but it'll get rotated around in the list. And then the last one, I think, is a block schedule. That's a commonly used one with older kids. It's very similar to what you did, if you hearken back to your high school years and you remember having different time periods, maybe you did first and second period biology, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because it was a more robust subject and you needed a classroom time and a lab time. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you knew you were doing biology, but then you didn't do it Tuesday and Thursday, and maybe something else was plugged in at those times. It's just a really great scheduling option for those who need to dive deeper in longer chunks of time in a subject. And I think you asked about what were some guiding questions to help you as you're determining which schedule might be right for you. I think there's 5 really great ones. First, you want to really pay attention to the ages and the attention span of your kids, especially if you have a wide age span of kids. The block schedule with really large chunks of learning time is probably not going to be a great idea if you have preschoolers, because they just don't have the attention span for it. What's your normal home culture of your house? Do you tend to be the type A family that runs on a clock, or do you tend to be more, plan B, maybe even plan C, that likes a more flexible schedule? Your homeschool really should run parallel with your home. And if you're trying to pick the schedule because it seems so great on paper, but that's not really how your life operates, you're going to end up in frustration every day. So the second question is, what is my normal home culture? And let me find a schedule that will match that. And then, do you plan to do a lot of group learning together, or do you hope to separate and increment out your kids doing their own thing? Because some of the schedules operate better, like the rhythm schedule especially operates really well if you're doing a lot of group learning. Do you plan, or how much time do you plan to devote to homeschooling every day? Do you have any outside of school commitments, like really small children that aren't in school that are demanding your time, or aging parents? Or for a lot of homeschoolers now, do you work at inside the home? Are you a work-at-home parent that has to accommodate for your work schedule also? Some of those schedules will be more accommodating for the mom who has lots of other irons in the fire.
You might even want to come volunteer with MACHE. As part of your
There
work.
you go. Let's just add another one, another ball in the air.
Right.
Well, Jamie, we would love to have you tell us about your book, Homeschool Bravely, and tell us the full name of the book, because I just love that part of it.
Well, it's Homeschool Bravely, How to Squash Doubt, Trust God, and Teach Your Child with Confidence. It's not really a how-to book, although the subtitle does say the word how-to in there. I didn't write it to be a how-to book because I think there's plenty of excellent ones on the market. Mostly, I just wanted it to feel like a hug slung around the neck of the fearful parent, to remind them of where their courage lies and that God's got this. He's got you, he's got your kids. It is divided into 3 parts. It talks about some of the common fears that we have as specifically homeschool moms. And I share some personal stories about my own journey through fear of homeschooling. And then it talks about some of the common struggles that homeschool moms face, like teaching with little ones underfoot and teaching the struggling learner, teaching that child who has a really strong will and doesn't want to listen to you. And then the last part is more about the solutions, giving some practical ideas for combating those fears and those struggles. And I really hope that when a mom reads it, she'll not let fear have the final say in her homeschool.
So good. I know when I first read it, I was just like, wow, if I could have had this book when I was in the throes of it, how encouraging that would have been. So how do we get a hold of this book?
Well, you can really order it anywhere books are sold online. And my publisher is actually offering the first chapter to anybody who goes to homeschoolbravely.com. You could download that for free to get it started to see if it's a good fit for you.
Great. Okay, well, wrapping up our discussion here, Jamie, do you have anything you just want to leave with our listeners and just our viewers, just to encourage them? What would they want to take away from this?
Well, if you are a parent who is facing withdrawing your kids and you're stepping into this homeschool thing for the very first time, I just want to encourage you to find community in that. MACHE is an excellent resource to join MACHE. Also on their website, they have there's a really helpful guide for finding local communities of homeschoolers. I know that is the key for me. I run a local homeschool co-op and have for years and years and years. And it's just been a lifesaver for not just my kids, but for me. Everyone wants to know that they are a part of a community who understands, who knows, who has some mentors that are a little bit further on the journey, who can hold your hand and remind you that this is good work you're doing. And you have a cloud of witnesses around you cheering you on as you go.
And that said, your group in Duluth, I mean, that's just a new group, right? 2 years?
Yep, this is our second year that I'm leading this group, but I've run co-op since the very beginning because I knew how very important it was going to be in the life of our homeschool. Can't champion homeschool groups enough.
Yeah, so true. Well, we just want to thank you again just for being with us and just the best to you. And I heard you're even writing a new book. So best to you on that project as well.
Thank you so much. It was great to be with you.